Hi, it's Karen Robertson here with DigitalKidsAuthor.com, and I'm here today with Michelle Anaya, whose new storybook app, Grindles Great Escape, is now available on the App Store. Welcome, Michelle.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Hi, I wanted to have a chat with you so you could share your inspiration and how you came about creating this storybook app. So, can you just tell us a little bit about how you got started writing and what brought you to create Grindles Great Escape and turn it into a book app?
All right, my background is in textile graphic design for apparel, but I love writing. I've written interior design articles and artist reviews for magazines over the past few years. I also write a guest blog for a site, Social Media for Entertainers, and I have a blog of my own. And while I've always dreamed of publishing children's books, I've always allowed myself to believe that unless I was a celebrity or pre-published, that being a published author would just never be an option for me. And one day while I was doing research in New York for one of my designs, I noticed a book written by another designer, a peer of mine, who she had found a way to incorporate her designs and her, love for color and print into a book of her own, and she had gotten published. And that really inspired me that this dream of mine to become published was possible. So I, realized that I would need some help. I had minored in English literature in school, but I didn't know that writing for others would be a lot different from just writing for myself. So I joined the Children's Book Insider, and there I got a lot of information, a lot of tools on writing, the do's and don'ts, and it also gave me a lot of encouragement because you get to interact with other writers who are actually doing it, going out there and getting published.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. I think for a lot of people, it's seeing that possibility of their dream coming true that puts them into action, and all of a sudden things open up for them. So, how
Yeah.
is it that you decided to write storybook apps or turn your book into an app as opposed to publishing it, via print or working to get a publishing contract?
Okay, well, originally I did try and send out a few of my my book ideas to publishers, and I got, the typical form letter that they're only interested in published authors. And one day while I was doing a tutorial on Children's Book Insider, I noticed your webinar,
Oh, wow.
and in which you were discussing how you turned your book Treasure Kai into a book app. So I immediately downloaded your ebook and went to work. And it was virtually a roadmap on how to create book apps. And it was very inspiring.
Oh, that's really exciting feedback to hear. Thanks for sharing that. I can't wait to see this book app, and I think you did a lot of research trying to work out which developer you were going to work with. So how was it that you made the decision on who would actually develop your app for you?
Back to the author's guide to book apps, there was a laundry list of different developers in there. I had done my own research previously, but I was a little cautious because seeing them on the internet, I wasn't really sure who was qualified and who wasn't, because everybody looks good on the internet. So I went through the list that was there, and I came across Dragon Pencil, and their website actually stood out for me because they clearly listed everything that they offered and the prices. And once I contacted Jerry, the owner, he was able to very clearly walk me through it. And for somebody who was a beginner, such as myself, who'd never done this before, having somebody being very clear and upfront with you is very important.
So tell me about some of the things that you found were easy and some of the things that were a bit challenging turning your book into an app.
When I decided to do this, I'd already written my manuscript.
Yeah.
And I'd already had it critiqued by Laura at Children's Book Insider. So she had we'd already done that work.
Yeah.
So for me, I thought the hard part was over. But then once I started working on the book app, I realized that it was a whole production. You had to get the narrator, which was very important. I didn't want to self-narrate. I had to find music. And I found the most challenging thing was the time involved. I wasn't expecting it to take quite as much time as it did.
Yeah, I think there definitely is a process for turning a story or a book into an app, but there are a number of steps involved, and you just kind of have to tick the box, do one step, and then do the next step, and do the next step, and eventually you get there. How long did it take you to turn your story into an app?
My case was a little unusual. It took me approximately 8 to 9 months.
And that was because you had an issue with your illustrator. I remember we were talking earlier, and you said your original illustrator had a family tragedy, and you really had to start over again after 4 months into the process, didn't you?
Yes. So what would have been possibly a 5 month, 4 to 5 month process ended up taking me 9 months. It was very unfortunate, but in the case of illustrators, it's very difficult for another person to pick up where the other person left off and match that exact style of artwork.
Yeah, I can understand that, especially if you're in the middle of illustrating the book. It's one thing if you're trying to find someone who can like draw extra layers for you if you're trying to animate something, but it's something entirely different if you're trying to get someone to continue a style with brand new illustrations. Tell us a little bit about Grindle's Great Escape. What was the inspiration for the story? What's it about?
Well, with Grindles Great Escape, it was inspired by my older son, Joseph, who has an ADHD. The book itself is not about an ADHD child, but living with a child who has ADHD, they have a lot of energy, they're very creative, they're very messy and a little bit disorganized.
Just a little
and,
bit. Yeah.
and every day was pretty much an adventure with him. And with this book, the main character, Martin, is very similar. His room is an obstacle course. He's always losing things. He's always putting off his chores for later. And he's just a mess. And he has to deal with the ramifications of not doing things that he's supposed to do in a timely manner. He takes his pet ferret to school and he loses him. It gets away and he spends the day trying to find his ferret before the principal does. Martin has a huge imagination, and the laundry monster, all the laundry that he never picks up in his room, it becomes a physical monster.
Yeah.
And the principal is, a great big bear of a man. He turns into a bear. Yeah. So it's all seen through the eyes of Martin and his very vivid imagination.
Anything that you would like people to know about turning books into apps or writing now that you've done it yourself? And also, I just wanted to mention as well that you've got another project called Monster Jam that you're about to start working on as well. So I've kind of followed what you've been doing via social media, and we've emailed a few times, and I can't wait to see that work as well. But what would you like to share with people who are thinking about doing this and wondering if it might be the right thing for them to do to get their story into the hands of kids?
Well, I would say that if this is truly your passion and your dream and you want to do this, I would say go for it, regardless of what obstacles you might come across, because in the end, it's so worth it. And writing is one thing, but where the book apps are concerned, one of the main things that resonated with me was the fact that being a new author, it would allow me to reach a global audience, a much wider audience. So if this is truly what you want to do and you have the time and the passion to put into it, then go for it.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time, Michelle. Really appreciate it. And everyone have a look at Grindle's Great Escape by Michelle Anaya.
Thank you.